Hey everybody. So I have been getting strong responses to my video on the new and improved Roosh V, new and improved quote unquote Roosh V. And if you haven't watched that video, go watch it. I'll put it in the crotch bar. But in short summary, Roosh V, who spent the majority of his public career as basically the Russ McCamey of dating, suddenly had a massive Christian conversion and is now has now reinvented himself as some sort of religious leader. So my criticism was that Roosh does not appear to actually be repentant of his actions. He does not seem to be repenting of his past actions. He seems to just be, a wolf in sheep's clothing, putting on a different sheepskin, so to speak. And or more like he was a wolf in wolf's clothing, and now he's putting on now he's dressing up as a sheep in front of all the other sheep, and they're believing that he was always a sheep, or that he really is a sheep now, or something. Anyway, I won't stretch that metaphor too thin, but I've gotten a lot of positive response from people who have said, yes, this is these are good points, etc., etc., and people who agree with me about Roosh. Some people have speculated that he is on the spectrum. I think that is possible. It is my opinion. What I see, there are two books that I recommend: The Sociopath Next Door and Psychopath Free, both of which are great for learning about the spectrum of sociopathy and psychopathy. I see Roosh falling more into that category. I am a complete layman in the realm of psychoanalysis. This is just my opinion, and I have absolutely no way to confirm that, but that is my general impression. An autistic person, and I am myself a high functioning autistic. An autistic person uh, may do something transgressive in some way, or something that is an affront to somebody, or something that hurts somebody, but it is always going to be out of ignorance. The motivating factor to do that within the spectrum is the autism spectrum is going to be ignorance, and not failing to understand that what they were doing was wrong. A very simple thing, for example, a lot of autistic children have boundary issues, and usually when we use the term boundary issues, we think of people who are, maliciously disregarding the personal space of others, cozying up to people in an unwelcome manner, that kind of thing. But a boundary issue for someone who's autistic might be that they just don't understand that this is too close to stand to somebody, or that people have a certain aura of personal space about them, that kind of thing. And the difference is a an autistic person or a person on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, is going to want to know what they did wrong so that they can correct their behavior. If you want to see how autistic people behave, there's a great documentary on Netflix. I believe it's called Dating. It's either Dating on the Spectrum or Love on the Spectrum. I watched the whole thing, and it was really heartwarming. It's about autistics meeting and going through the whole dating process. And what's funny is I watched it and I thought they are better at it than a lot of people that aren't on the spectrum. But partially because they're very cognizant of like rules and rituals and that sort of thing. But anyway, you watch on there, a person who is on the spectrum is going to is going to want to know what they did wrong so they can self-correct. A person, what we see with Roosh consistently, is somebody who, if you tell him that what he did was wrong or incorrect, or that's communicated to him in some way, then his response is to tell the person telling him that they are some kind of beta, or they're some kind of cuck, or they are beneath him. The only reason they think that he did something wrong is because they are fundamentally beneath him in some socio-sexual hierarchy or something like that. That is more in the sociopath to psychopath spectrum of behavior. And that is why, with this newfound Christian conversion that he says he's having, I think raising a legitimate question of Is this person has this person actually converted? Is he actually repentant? I don't think that he is, and I don't think that he's capable of it. A lot of people came to me and said, "Well, you as a Christian have no business telling another Christian how to the right way or the wrong way to go about coming to know God." To which I would say that is not what we are talking about here. This is not like me going up to someone at my church, thumping them on the ear and saying, "Hey, you're doing it wrong." This is more like what we see in the Bible, where Jesus, the apostles, the Apostle Paul, John the Baptist, they have absolutely no hesitation calling out the behavior of hypocritical religious leaders. And that's the thing. Roosh can't just convert to Christianity. He has to become now this public authority on Christianity, which is what he's reinvented himself as. So he's not, at that point, this is not just about his personal relationship with God. He is now teaching other people how to have a relationship with God. And the question then becomes, is he leading them astray? Is he what is this information that he's imparting to them? And from what I've read of his writing, it's the exact same tone and the exact same robotic structural programmer logic, computer programmer logic that he tried to apply to dating and romance and love. And what was the end result of that? He's a miserable old man that has no love and no romance in his life whatsoever. So now he's going to try. He's basically teaching you how to pick up God like he used to teach you how to pick up women. And so that's the issue here. And I got a lot of comments, but one stood out. It comes from someone named 8080CD. I don't know who this person is. This is not in any way, shape, or form a personal attack on them. If I seem exasperated, it's just exasperation with the overall topic. But this is exactly what cuts to the heart of the issue that I'm raising here. This blindness, we're going to see somebody who is totally blind to everything I said in the previous video. And I'm going to reiterate for you exactly where he is blind about what I actually said. He's completely ignoring it. And I'm going to call it right out and say you're failing to acknowledge this, because his confirmation bias is what is enabling Roosh. And it's what is enabling Roosh's bullshit. So here's the statement. He says, "I have met Roosh after his conversion, and he has repented publicly and in confession for his sin. He has pulled all of his books off the market, seeks spiritual guidance from priests, has committed to reading the scriptures, I believe, daily, fasting, stopped sleeping around with women. What would convince you of a change of heart other than his actions?" Okay, stop right there. Sleeping around with women is not what I was taking him to task for. Sexual assault was what I was taking him to task for. Say it. Fucking say it. Put it on the table. That's the thing. Every one of these comments, there are so many. Go look at the comments in the previous video. There are so many like this, where you say I say, is he sorry for by his own admission, sexual assault? Acts that are, by what he described them to be, they are sexual assault. Is he sorry for hurting those women? And the response is, Roosh said that he's sorry for sleeping around. He's sorry for fornicating. He doesn't want anyone else to fornicate. Fornicating is not what I'm talking about. Sexual assault is what I'm talking about. Is he sorry for having sex with a woman while she was completely unconscious? For holding down a woman that was trying to get away from him and forcing himself on her, having sex with her under those conditions, having sex with women that he knew were too drunk to give meaningful consent, having sex with women that were so drunk they were having trouble walking. Is he sorry for that? What about it doesn't even go into, and those are just a couple of examples. This guy wrote book after book after book after book where he detailed his horrible sexual assaults on people, and even wrote repeatedly that there were these women he found that were so attractive he didn't care. He was going to do whatever he had to do to fuck them, and he didn't care if he went to prison for it. He even had put out a tweet one time. Somebody on Twitter, a journalist on Twitter, accused him of being a rapist. His response was that it was better to be remembered as a rapist than a nobody. Does he have a different opinion of that now? Is he sorry for glorifying rape and glorifying sexual assault? That is the question. Not, is he sorry for fornicating? And you can't see the difference. Fornicating is a category of, fornicating is a category of rules that people are expected to follow to varying degrees in different cultures. Sexual assault, on the other hand, is a malicious act of violence against another person. Is he sorry for that? Is he sorry for hurting people? That's the difference. Does he get up there at that lecture you went to? Does he get up there and say, I'm sorry for hurting people? Does he acknowledge when he's crying? When he's getting up there and weeping and crying? Does he... it goes on to say he cried on his Roosh tour about how he wasted so much of his life. Well, first of all, I grew up in the southern United States. Crying preachers aren't that impressive to me. But secondly, wasting his life is not... I don't care if he wastes his life or not. I care, is he sorry for hurting people? Does this moral transgression against other human beings, do his malicious acts of violence, harassment, and torment of his fellow human beings, does that weigh on him? Does that weigh on him? Does he want to does he want to apologize to those people? Does he wish to have does he wish to have their forgiveness? Does he wish to do what it takes to put things right in their eyes? Is he sorry? Does it weigh on him at all? And I don't think it does. I don't think, even after his conversion, I don't think he gives two flying fucks about whether or not he has hurt people. What about the international fat-shaming movement? Look that up. He started a movement where he wanted his followers to go around harassing fat women. If fat women walked into a club dressed to look sexy, he wanted his followers to go up and start shouting insults at them and humiliate them and make them cry in front of everybody for just because they were overweight and trying to look nice at a club. He wanted his followers to take photographs. And when I say take photographs, I don't mean appropriate photographs that were already posted on the internet. I mean take photographs, snap photographs, make photographs of people that were obese, women that were obese, and upload them to social media for other people to make fun of. Is he sorry for that? Does he understand that that's not nice? Do you understand that that's not nice? That is not Christian behavior. That is not the behavior of someone that is motivated by the love and the kindness of Jesus Christ. Where in the Bible did Jesus Christ say, go around harassing people and make them cry in front of everybody and break their will and grind them under your foot? Where did he ever say? I think he was more the do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. If someone will not have you, dust off your sandals and leave. I think that was more his thing. And that's the thing. You can't comprehend. You think that because Roosh is fasting every day, Roosh skips lunch. Wow, that's so much better than when... That totally alleviates the fact that he was going around harassing and assaulting people. And, that book, Psychopath Free, that I talk about, it has a list of criteria, very detailed criteria for what it means to be... what you can use to identify a psychopath. And one of the things is and this is crucial, this is so important. One of the things is that you find yourself continually having to explain basic right and wrong to them, basic concepts of good and evil, basic concepts of decent human behavior that seem to elude them. And that is everything that Roosh has ever done, seems to fly completely in the face of basic human decency. And if you have a problem with it, he smirks at you. That's Roosh V. And that's what I want to know. Not did Roosh... I don't care about Roosh's meeting with priests every day. I don't care about Roosh is sitting, meditating every day or all of that shit. I care about, is he truly sorry for the willful, malicious harm that he has sought to inflict for his own malicious, self-righteous, smug gratification on other people? And go look at something else about Roosh. Every one of his critics, myself included, gets accused of having some kind of mental disorder. Everybody that criticizes Roosh is somehow crazy or something like that. And you know what? That's another major sign of a psychopath that's mentioned in Psychopath Free. You know why that's one of the major signs? Because they drive everybody around them crazy, but they're incapable of realizing that it's them that's doing it. They just perceive they perceive themselves as perfect and flawless, and everybody else just starts flying off the handle for no reason. That's Roosh V. And that's the bridge that has to be crossed. Because we're talking about someone who not only may not want to repent of the harm that he has caused other people, he may not be able to. And that's something that I struggle with in my spiritual life, is thinking, well, we as Christians, C.S. Lewis said, we as Christians are only forgiven to the extent that we forgive others. And we're only forgiven to the extent that we forgive others. And it's like, yeah, but there are people who I know are going to ask for forgiveness and gain my forgiveness so that they can get one over on me. People like Roosh. And, that's something that I struggle with. But it goes on... then it goes on to say, either way, your judgment doesn't really count for much. Roosh will be judged before God. Perhaps you should consider the weight you put on yourself rendering these kinds of judgments. Hang on. Most of your criticisms are of Roosh prior to his conversion. You exclusively bring up articles, books from before his conversion in your attack. Yes, dear. The reason I bring that up is because those are the things that I am asking. Is he sorry for? Does he understand that what he did was wrong? Does he understand that he made a career out of hurting people and destroying people and just completely morally, humanly transgressing in a malicious way against every person in his path? That he went out of his way to hurt innocent people? Is he repentant of that? I don't care that he had sex out of wedlock. That is far less important to me than the fact that he has, by his own admission, hurt people and taken pride in it. That's what I want to know. That's what I want to see. And if you think I'm getting a little bit animate about this, if you think I'm getting a little worked up, stop and think for a minute. Maybe the reason I'm getting a little worked up is because there's something very, very, very despicably wrong with this person that we're talking about. This is not a shortfall on my part. This is not a shortcoming on my part that I'm expressing outrage and disgust and irritation with this person. And I stopped at person because there's a lot of things I'd much rather call him. It is not a shortfall on my part that I think that I am skeptical of this scumbag, that I want to know if he is really and truly sorry. And one person commented on the One person commented on the original video and said, well, as far as the sexual assault allegations, I don't think Roosh is too keen on repenting about a major, or admitting to committing a major crime. To which I would say, then he's not repenting. It doesn't say, it said repent of your sins, do right by the people that you've harmed. It's do right by the people that you've harmed, put things right. It didn't say, oh, well, there's, stop short if you have to save your own, stop short of repenting and putting things right and rectifying the harm that you've caused if you need to protect your own tail. That's a really slimy, shallow, cowardly way to go about it. And it goes, and so, yeah, why do I comment on his things before his conversion? I mean, because, look at it this way. Jeffrey Dahmer converted to Christianity. All of my criticisms of Jeffrey Dahmer's behavior, which, if you don't know, he's Jeffrey Dahmer in America was a notorious serial killer who murdered his victims and then ate them. All of my moral problems with Jeffrey Dahmer come before his conversion to Christianity. It's like, that in and of itself does not wipe the slate clean. There is a tremendous amount of work that has to be done, and because this person, if he had just fucked off to, fucked off and been a Christian, I would not care one way or the other. But he is now reinventing himself as a religious leader. And that's the problem. And that the fact that he's doing that tells me that he's not really changed. He's just looking for a new way to be top dog, to be alpha, to push everybody around and tell everybody what to do. And good God, I implore you, if you are defending this guy, to quote Bart Simpson, you have bought another load of crap from the world's biggest fertilizer salesman. There is no indication that Roosh is sorry for all of the many, many multitudes of people that he has damaged and harmed and mistreated and abused and tormented throughout his decades of public notoriety. There is no indication, none whatsoever. And that's what matters. And yeah, he will be judged before God. And, if he and I think if he wants that judgment to go well, he's got a very long road to hoe. But ultimately, that comment about he'll be judged before God, that's irrelevant, because what that really is you excusing his shitty behavior. That's all it is. And this is the difference. I mean, one of my favorite passages from the Bible is where Christ says, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are but rules taught by men. That was what Christ realized. Think about all the times the Pharisees came to him and said, Rabbi, tell us about what you think about. They try to trap him into these moral quandaries, put him in a corner with these moral quandaries where they'd say, well, this rule says this, but this rule says this. How do you rectify this, that, and the other? And he would just constantly say, look, guys, it's not about the rules. The rules are important. The rules are a guide, an important way to help guide you. But what we really need to think about is what kind of people we are. What is our relationship with God? How do we relate to each other? How do we get by on a day-to-day basis? Because the rules, if Roosh follows, from what I understand, he's gone Armenian Orthodox. If he follows all of their rules, he will probably have a more organized life. He will probably have a more productive life. He will probably have a much cleaner life, a much more tranquil life. But those are guidelines to get people's behavior under control. There is still a tremendous amount of personal transformation that has to occur. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, look at Les Miserables, the two characters in Les Miserables that go back and forth, Javert and Jean Valjean. Javert always, what he doesn't understand throughout the book, what ultimately, spoiler alert, leads him to commit suicide, is he believes that if you follow all the rules, you're a good person. He follows all of the rules without fail, and he is always a bad person, always comes out the bad guy. Then he sees Jean Valjean, who never follows any of the rules, but always comes out the good guy. That's what we're trying to understand here. To bring Nietzsche into it, we're talking about going beyond good and evil. The difference between following rules versus, following a bunch of rules does not necessarily make you a good person. That's what we're dealing with here. And that is an important consideration, the crucial consideration that Jesus was trying to get across to people. Anyway.